Hey guys, it's Luke, and today I am driving a 2015 Golf GTI. Now this car is basically the quintessential hot hatchback, and today what I'm going to do is talk to you guys about why this might be the best hot hatch that you can buy on the market today. There are many reasons for that, and in this review you're going to find out why. So to start, this car has been around since the 1980s, starting off with the Mark I GTI that completely revolutionized the car world by introducing the hot hatchback. Now basically the hot hatch is the car that you can drive to work, to school, haul stuff in it every single day, and then have an absolute blast on some back roads when you're looking for a car that's fun to drive. Now the Golf was really the first car that combined all that in the package that we have today, which makes it so practical and yet so fun. Now let's start with the styling. The styling with the new GTI is a huge improvement over the previous generation in my mind. To the average passerby, you're not gonna notice a whole lot of differences, but if you're into cars, you're definitely gonna tell. This car is a lot more squared off and a lot more masculine than the previous generation. The previous generation, the headlights, they were bubbly, the taillights, they were bubbly. The whole car is just more bubbly. The roofline was more bubbly. I mean, like, it was a lot more curvy. Like, this car is a lot more squared off than that car was. The headlights, they're more rectangular. The taillights, they're a lot more rectangular, a lot more sharp edges, a lot more creases. The whole body is boxier and lower, and it's a lot sleeker in my opinion, not having all of those curvy, kind of girly lines. It makes the car look a lot better. My favorite view of this car is from the rear end. I love the way those taillights cut in. I think it looks super sleek, super understated. That is the key with this car. This car doesn't run around and scream, hey, I'm a fast GTI. It's a lot more discreet, a lot more mature in the way that it's designed. Now, when you look at the front end, you can see that red little piece of trim under the grille kind of looks like some lipstick, but that is one of the hidden features of the car that shows that it's a GTI. You also have fins where the fog lights are on the front bumper. They look like aerodynamic fins that really don't do anything. They're just for styling, but they actually incorporate the fog light into them, which looks really cool. And then that's basically it. You have some GTI badges on the sides in front of the front doors, but other than that, it looks a lot like a standard Golf. Another thing that really makes this car pop, and I don't think this car would be the type of car that it is without them, are the wheels. This would not be a GTI if it didn't have those 18-inch wheels with that pattern that is so quintessential. I love the black accents, the inlays on the alloy. They look absolutely amazing. So now let's talk about the one thing that you guys are all going to care about with this car, and that is performance. Now this car has a 2-liter turbocharged engine that produces 210 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. This being the base model S car, you don't have the performance package, which ups it to 220 horsepower, but quite frankly, this is plenty of power. The boost comes on nice and early, and damn, is it a blast to drive. Now, the turbo actually doesn't lag that much. Once you're above like 2400 RPM, you feel the torque. It comes on quick, and peak horsepower is actually pretty low in the rev range. It peaks at 4500 RPM, and redline is at 6000. And you can actually tell that. Once you get past like $5,000, you can kind of feel it plateau. You're not really getting a whole lot more from the engine. Now you can have your choice of gearboxes. You get a DSG or the 6-speed manual. Now the DSG, I haven't driven it, but I've heard it has lightning fast shifts, but this manual is a joy to use. Oh my God, the spacing of the gears is actually pretty good. The gear ratios are nice and long, so you can actually hit, I think it's 72 miles an hour in second gear. I mean, I know for sure you can get past 60 in second gear, which is great for doing a 0 to 60 run. The throws, they're a teeny bit long, but nothing that you're not going to be able to handle. And quite frankly, it makes up for relatively long throws with a snickety gear change, and it just feels so mechanical. You can feel it slot straight into gear every time you change gears. It's just an absolute joy. It's a nice little click noise. It feels very precise when you're changing gears, which is amazing. It doesn't feel rubbery at all, which is something I hate in the shifter. The clutch is pretty good. but it does feel a teeny bit rubbery around the engagement point. It feels almost like it's an elastic-y kind of feel. So it makes it a little bit weird to judge the engage point at first, but once you get used to it, it is a great clutch to use. It's very easy to change gears fast in this car. That's one thing I've noticed straight off the bat. And the engine is super responsive, so you can heel-toe downshift and rev match all day long without having any problems. Now this powertrain gets you from 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds, maybe a little bit less if you're really quick with the gear changes, and it returns 24 city, 34 highway, which is pretty damn good for a car of this class. But those are also conservative estimates. Driving down, my cousin got 41 miles to the gallon, and then me driving up, not trying to be efficient at all, got 37.2 miles to the gallon on the highway. Now that's extremely impressive, and I wish that most cars had fuel economy that good with performance that's this great. It's absolutely incredible in that sense. So let's move on to the driving experience. Now this car handles amazingly. It is so good to drive. The suspension is extremely well tuned, and it just corners nice and flat. There is very little body lean. You feel like you're hugging the road. You're squat on the road. It's just awesome to drive. The steering is very communicative and very light, surprisingly. It weights up as speeds gain, but just driving around town, it feels like a very light steering setup. But that's not to say it isn't precise. It's extremely precise steering, which is a blast to use. It could have a little bit more road feel, I think, but it's really not a big deal at all. It is very good steering, and anyone that buys this car is gonna love it completely, just completely love it. I completely enjoy it in every way. But this car also doesn't have the limited slip differential. Now, if this car did have the limited slip that does torque vectoring and all that good stuff, I've heard that it's absolutely incredible and that it gets you out of a lot of trouble in the turns and limits a lot of understeer, but you don't really notice it when you are driving this car. You don't notice the lack of the limited slip. This thing is still epic to drive, and I truly mean epic. This thing is an absolute blast. Now, I think if you are tracking the car and really using it as a high performance vehicle all the time, you might want to have that limited slip diff. But if you're just daily driving it like this and just using it for fun, I don't think you're ever gonna be wanting for the limited slip differential or the performance pack with the extra 10 horsepower, to be honest. This car is amazing as it sits. Now let's talk about the interior and some of the features that you get with the GTI S. Now, this interior for the class is incredible. It's the same general design as the regular Golf, but it looks awesome because you have all these really little subtle accents that you don't get in a regular GTI. To start, you have little red lighting under the aluminum strips on the door panels that look incredible. It's just a little accent that really lets you know that you're driving a GTI. You have this faux carbon looking trim all over the dashboard, and while you know it's fake, it doesn't look particularly fake. It's a high quality fake material, if you know what I mean by that. It's not screaming, oh, I'm not real carbon fiber. It's just low-key, classy, looks good. Now, the whole dashboard is soft touch. It looks very upscale. You have chrome accents around the air vents. Everything just looks like it's high quality. And in a hatchback like this, that is very important because it really sets it apart from the rest of the competition, where the interiors can be kind of chintzy and not all that nice. This interior is obviously different from that. Now, one thing I do love about this interior are the seats. They're absolutely incredible in the way that they're designed. They have that classic GTI plaid look with the red and the white and the gray and the black. They are heavily bolstered. They really do hug you into place. And quite frankly, I think I would get these seats over the leather seats just because it's such a quintessential look that you have to have with this car. This car is not a GTI without those seats. Now, they're very comfortable for short-term drives, but on a long drive, they do get kind of firm. I definitely felt it yesterday driving 4 hours straight in this car. It definitely does get a bit firm. And a tall guy like me doesn't have quite enough thigh support, which kind of got a little bit annoying on the highway. But other than that, no complaints from the seats. Rear seat room is pretty good, and you actually get rear seat vents, which is a bonus. So let's talk about some of the technology that you get. You have a touchscreen here. I think it's about 6.5 inches. It's not color. It doesn't have navigation or CarPlay or any of that. The new models, you can get those features, but for the 2015 that I'm driving, that wasn't an option. And it's relatively quick to respond. It works okay. There's just nothing special about it. It's purely functional, and that's it. You're not getting any more or any less. It works, and that's the end of the story. You have some cool features, like there's an entire page that tells you about your drive, like your average speed, your fuel economy, your distance, all that good stuff, all on one page, which makes it very easy to look at. And the gauge cluster is super convenient because you have two analog displays for the tach and the speedo, as well as fuel and engine temperature. But in the middle, you have a display that you can change between a million different things, such as speed, fuel economy, engine temperature, all that good stuff. And there's also a little dial that will let you know what gear you're in, and will let you know when you should change gears. And it's not obnoxious like it is in my car. It's a big green light that's like, change up! And I was like, I don't want to change up, otherwise I'm not going to have any power. In this thing, it's discreet. It's just like, why don't you just change up a gear? And then if you don't change up a gear, it doesn't do anything. And honestly, that's the way it should be. Now, this steering wheel is amazing. Flat bottom makes it very good for trail braking and heel toe downshifting. It's just such a good look. You have this faux chrome material on it, which, while you know it's plastic, it doesn't feel particularly cheap. And you have the big VW logo. You have red stitching on it. It just feels great. It's such a good steering wheel. And honestly, this entire interior just looks awesome. It just looks a class above, and that's what really matters. Now, this car rides pretty well. It's a firm ride for sure. There's no denying that, but it is pretty compliant. You feel the road, and it's not uncomfortable by any means. It's just a firm, controlled ride. You feel the bumps, but it is a totally tolerable, pretty comfortable experience. Now, the road noise is pretty good. You can hear a little bit of tire roar from the tires on the highway, but other than that, it's really not bad at all. Wind noise is pretty low, and you can't really hear the engine unless you're in the boost. And the engine doesn't sound unrefined. A lot of times, high-stress 4 cylinders can sound kind of raspy and shitty, but this one actually doesn't sound bad. And when you have the windows down, you get a nice hint of turbo whistle, and it's just awesome. Blow-off valve noises here and there. It's great. I love it. But with the windows up, it's nice and refined. And of course, the trunk space is great. You have like 53 cubic feet with the seats folded down, which is the same as some small SUVs, which goes to show, why get an SUV? Just get a GTI. It's better in every plausible way. So let's talk a little bit about the styling. I mean, not the styling, the personality of this car. This car, one thing that Jack and I kind of griped about was that it doesn't have the personality that a other car would have, has a bit more flair and a bit more flamboyancy, because this car is German. It's German engineered. It's Das Auto. It is very much made to be perfect at everything, and by doing so, we made the argument that it kind of diluted the personality. Now, after driving it quite a bit, I can say that's all bullshit. This car is awesome. It has plenty of personality. Even though it's a serious car, it can let its balls hang out when you want it to, and it's a load of fun. Just the fact that I'm using so many slurs lets you know that this thing is quite incredible. It makes me feel like a driving god. And honestly, it's like your one friend that he goes to work, he has the responsible job, he looks good in front of the neighbors, he's responsible, he's nice, he's clean cut, but then when you guys are just hanging out, he parties hard. That is this car. He goes to work, he's discreet. You could show up to this car if you ran an accounting firm and you would look perfectly in place, but then you can totally hoon it on the way home. That is all I need to say. This car is amazing. I love it. If I were you guys, I would definitely if you're looking for a car that is fun to drive and yet practical, this is really one of your few choices. You have the Focus ST, and then maybe a Subaru WRX or STI. But honestly, I would choose this over the WRX for sure. Not sure about the ST because I haven't driven an ST yet, but once I do, I will let you guys know. I mean, they're coming out with a new one in a year or two, I think, anyway, when the 2018 Focus comes out. But yeah, I mean, this car is amazing. I really hope you guys found this review nice and informative and engaging. As always, please check out MotorMindsProductions.com. Subscribe to our channel. You have no idea how much that helps us out. Like, and if you want to, drop us a comment. We try to engage all of our viewers in the comment section. So please drop a comment if you want to get in touch. If you want clarification on anything or you just want to chat, totally hit us up and we will be down to talk. So hopefully I will see you guys watching our next video.